Alright, comment video. Try to do it quickly because I don't want to be bothered. But anyway, yeah, it was just so, oh, I hate people. Anyway, Piro's latest video, talking about how he's going to be instructor now, explaining all the truths to us. Which, like, he was actually doing that the whole time. He was pretending to do this fake conversation crap anyway. That's why people have found him so unacceptable. Anyway, useless. This whole theory that feelings are something to do with any of this stuff we're debating, in the sense that somehow someone else making the accusation that other people are getting their ideas from their feelings, when we know that that's maybe true in cases like racism. People have a sensibility. They like certain smells and they like certain sights. Certain visual stimuli has a certain sensual effect on you, and you're saying that that's an empirical truth. That's some sort of scientific data that you've collected, that something's good or bad. So particular food is worth eating because you like it. Now, that logic is so obviously flawed, and obviously in that narrow case, people's personal sensibilities are driving their action. But there's no example where somebody is confident subjectively. You're not confident because you have a confident emotion that just shows up out of nowhere. People are confident because they don't see, okay, any opposition to their theory or the thing they're confident about, or else because they need it to be true for some personal reason, like it's tax cuts or something. They'll pretend that, oh yeah, tax cuts increase revenues and everything will be fine, so yes, give me a tax cut because that'll make the budget even work better. Something like that, a self-interest. And so instead of arguing with what people are arguing, it's arguing the messenger, arguing their character, arguing some bullshit, an accusation he can't defend, and he'll keep doing stuff like that because, yeah, he keeps claiming he's proved something when he hasn't proved anything. So it's just such a despicable troll. But anyway, I really should just take a break. People do ask questions like that. Why? Well, because they're the ones talking, asshole. I mean, I can respond to other people, but they don't respond back. And, well, Piro really doesn't either anymore, in any coherent manner. So anyway, this Allen guy does kind of point out Piro's flaw, simply, so I'll read it. Recognition by definition is identification or acknowledgement of something. If it is an error, it would be idiotic to label it as actual recognition. Yeah, well, obviously then it's a distortion or a misrepresentation, something like that. The byproduct of motive connotations that derive from recognition can be either positive or negative. Well, it depends on the context of the recognition, of course. So, of course, if you're looking to try to recognize something, it'll always be positive. Even if the thing you're recognizing is negative, the positive part will be you identified where, like, say you're looking for bear traps. You're looking for landmines, okay? You'll be positive in the sense I found it, and negative in the sense that, oh shit, I found it. That kind of thing. Emotions do not in themselves determine what the brain recognizes. Right, but it can affect people's judgment, their emotions, but those are subjective matters of taste or personal advantage that are doing the biasing. Piro's accusation, again, is that somehow I didn't draw these conclusions in some sort of honest way, in the sense that the facts led me to the conclusion that the physics as described is flawed and isn't really physics, and is based on a bunch of unproven and premature conclusions. Such nonsense should be a great example of language molestation. Well, yeah, language is broken in the sense that it is too vague in terms of too many words. We allow too many definitions, and that's a problem. sort of a big problem in some ways, because people can't even acknowledge the existence of words like bad and good, which really is a problem. Alright, so just another YouTuber on a moral nihilist video says, you say they call themselves nihilists to cover the fact they are bigots. Bigots against who? Bigots against everything who's not them. That was the whole point. The nihilists are finding excuses to be selfish cunts. So whether the bigotry is just limited to the fact of what's in it for me, or what's in it for my family, or what's in it for my race. But yes, that's what nihilism fundamentally leads to, is motivated by, is rationalizations to defend not taking responsibility for the fact that it's an influence game we're playing. We're influencing things, and our comfort will be at the cost of the people who it will be extracted out of. It's a parasitical environment. You can't drink the blood without realizing the blood came from somewhere, and just a fact. So, dumb question. Delete. Alright, then this nut, Annika Mirage. A bunch of comments that are just inanely simplistic, and really no point. Gravitational lens is a distribution of matter, such as a cluster of galaxies, between a distant light source and the observer, that is capable of bending light from the source as the light travels towards the observer. The point is, there has to be intense gravity. A bunch of distributed things don't create intense gravity. That means it's very low density. It always goes to the widest circle of the things you're calling a cluster, and the collective gravity of that wide circle. And the collective gravity will be very weak if things are separated by empty space. Empty space is not gravitational. So the more of it in your thing that's creating gravity, the less gravity you have. So, but anyway, there's a bunch of stupid comments like that. I'll save them for the Draft Science channel. And they're on videos that wasn't the last video, which is really weird. I don't understand the appeal of the Pearson clown. Okay, that's a positive. Okay, Phoenix just changed. It's a complete asswipe. So, retardedly defending the Piro, which is really idiot. He's focused on sensation of event rather than what makes up the event, which is fine. Why is that fine? Why is it fine to waste time talking about how some argument makes me feel? Like we go to court and we're deciding whether somebody's guilty or innocent. And we're going to sit there and say, well, how does each piece of evidence make you feel? Here's the knife, here's the gun. He shot him and then stabbed him. And, why would we care what people's emotional reactions are to the evidence? And why would that be fine for somebody to do that? That would be stupid for somebody to do that. Of course, he's free to focus on what he wishes. Well, I'm just saying, if you think that's philosophy, then you're as big an idiot as I have previously concluded you are. I'm quite confident that you're an idiot and belong on the, you belong in the asshole galaxy. His point was that one cannot deny the inherent fact of humanity, of human irrationality. It's not a fact. Human irrationality is not a fact. The fact is, the brain works really good. It's really good at identifying obstacles. It can see roads. It's very fine judgment. It can remember very accurately. It can do all that stuff very, very well. There's nothing inherently inaccurate in our logical and cognitive ability. And the only thing that makes it flawed is this subjective element people inject, where they say, I love my child more than I love other people's children and stuff. And they allow that emotion to make them think that's rational. That somehow their child is somehow better or more important to the world, or their consciousness is more important to be preserved. And it's completely illogical. And it's only illogical because they're allowing a stupid emotion to define the reality. They're saying, because I like big boobs are great, they're the only thing to love in the universe, we should just make tons and tons of them because they're the only thing valuable. When that's just subjective crap. It has no foundation in logic or rationality. It's subjective, conditioned nonsense. Doesn't mean anything. Now, if you're going to say it's a fact that we desire, fine. but there's no fact that boobs are great. He's not wrong, actually. No, he is wrong. You're an idiot. He's an idiot. You both belong in the asshole galaxy. Piro gets on my nerves, so my observation does have a small influence. Again, it gets on your nerves for no reason, or it gets on your nerves for a reason. You have a unsettled or dissonant reaction because what he says is stupid and arrogant and pompous and idiotic. But would be the thing he's speaking of ironically. I don't know what that meant. However, it's hard to tell what contexts and tools for analysis he's thinking of when he talks like this. There's no feeling tools of analysis. Feelings will only get in your way if you want to do something called analysis. Analysis is based on facts, not your personal interest, not your subjective bullshit. So if he wants to make an argument about something, it ought to be about what the actual qualities and properties of the thing are. And all he's doing this for is because he wants to pretend he can discount other people's confidence by just saying it's an emotion, and not recognize that by doing that he's just discounted his own confidence and his own judgment. One can throw the same exact accusation at him and just say, you're confident because you need it to be true, period. So we're done. I'm not sure he's thinking about the value of suffering so much as what happens during the exploratory process of some things or events. That's not really the subject of this video, but I think he's a nihilist, and I think he's a vain, self-important douche. Until he mentions you, I think he was struggling to solve some obtuse programming issue. I don't know what that has to do with anything. This is the weak evidence video. There's nothing about that in here. He forgets the viewers when he's doing his videos sometimes. Well, I don't even know what he's forgets. I don't know what he's doing, especially lately, where he can't even explicitly acknowledge who he's responding to and what statements he's responding to, it seems. So if someone, I mean, he's pretty much, in my opinion, becoming intellectually autistic. So if someone isn't watching both players in the ping pong game, it's hard to understand him and say you are Andy. Well, it's certainly impossible for you to understand what he's responding to because he doesn't play anything and he doesn't respond to anything connected. And if he does respond, he spends 45 minutes on one sentence. And he offers nothing in the description, which really doesn't help. Yes, exactly. And he has a dogmatic religion, question mark. Well, the point is he's incredibly religious, and that his whole philosophy is based on some Piroism of 2,000 years ago, some bullshit skeptic nonsensical mush, and then his silly film strip bullshit that really doesn't have anything to do with arguing. We're not arguing each other's film strips, we're arguing what film strip is correct. It might be projection. You're extremely dogmatic. Well, I'm not dogmatic, so we prove that. Prove where I make statements. I make statements that I defend. I say evolution is the truth. I say the evidence is huge. I give some of the evidence, and even that meager amount of evidence I provide is more than enough. I explain why religion is completely unfounded and it doesn't make any logical sense. Even if it were true, it doesn't make any logical sense. Even if I made a God, how could I make a God with free will? How could I make a God who could spend an eternity, forever, an infinite amount of time sitting around to have the dumb idea of, you know, all of a sudden, after an infinite amount of time of thinking about it, he comes up with the dumb idea to make an imperfect creation, you know, and then to persecute his creation. And you're telling me there's a logic in that? No, there's no logic in that. I'm not being dogmatic. I'm explaining why the evidence indicates it's logically impossible and it's physically impossible. There's no evidence for it physically, and there's no evidence for it in any cognitively, logically rational world where any kind of brain would work like God's brain. A brain couldn't possibly be that retarded. I have control of the universe, and yet I can't figure out that, you know, the animal I just gave curiosity to might eat an apple. Jesus fucking Christ. Gary, I have a way for you to potentially prove or disprove the gravitational lensing for yourself. So this guy's using somebody else's name. So you're gonna, everybody's just going to get blocked for that, okay? If you're using somebody else's name, that's tacky as fuck. You have no right to take somebody else's identity and wear it. You just don't. I mean, Hannibal Lecter, okay, he can peel somebody's face off and wear it because he's got the goods. You're not Hannibal Lecter. You're just a cheap, trolly piece of shit. You don't have a right to peel somebody's face off and place it on you. So, yeah, if you're riding under somebody else's name, you're going to get deleted if you're a raggy commenter. Now, if you're a really polite and intelligent person who just says interesting and nice things in interesting and nice ways, then I guess you probably could wear somebody's face. But if you're going to wear somebody's face, you're going to have to be one hell of a great commenter. Because you have no right to do that kind of shit. You have no right to shit in somebody's living room wearing, you know, a Richard Nixon mask. You just don't. Fuck you. Grow up. Get an identity for yourself, shithead. What you do is you point your telescope at the sun. Don't point directly at it. Instead, aim slightly to the edge of the corona. That way you don't damage your sensitive light sensing equipment. Get it? Do you get that? It's funny, right? I don't know what your point is. The point is Hubble telescope can look for gravitational lensing every single day by our sun. Every day it could look right next to the sun. There's absolutely no scatter, no atmosphere, no anything, no problems, complete darkness. And it can watch the universe getting swirled, okay, by the lensing mechanism. And it hasn't done it because it isn't there. That's the simple truth. It was a bad experiment done badly, and they called it conclusive evidence that Einstein's right. This is the thing that proved Einstein right, and it's not even been proven. Irony much. So anyway, blocked. Let's see. Okay. He's going under the name Jordan Peterson. You're not Jordan Peterson. Fuck you. More Anita bullshitty, idiotic, blah, 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 blah. Now this guy's calling himself Albert Einstein. It's no doubt the cowboy. Because he's got a lot of sock accounts and upvotes his comments. It's always kind of a giveaway. Hang in there, buddy. I had to go through the same thing. Everybody, so he's calling himself Albert, and so he's talking as if he's Albert Einstein. Everybody discounted my bent space gravity theory. They said, how can you challenge Newton? You don't know nothing. Well, he wasn't challenging Newton. In fact, everything Newton said is true. It's just Einstein added a tiny bit of detail. It's like saying that Gould proved Darwin wrong. When no, Gould just explained that most of the evolution happens in these small populations. He added to evolution theory. He didn't subtract from it, and he didn't counter it in any way. Einstein didn't challenge Newton, you idiot. Newton had no theory of how gravity happens. He gave you how it works, what it does. That's his explanation. That's all. He even has statements where he answers that claim and says, why don't you tell us how it works? And he says, I've told you what it does. I can't tell you how it does it. I don't have any facts to do that. Cunt. So you can't even get it right. That's why you shouldn't be wearing Einstein's face, because Einstein wasn't as dumb as you. But I just kept calling people liars and idiots and pedophiles. Well, obviously I haven't done that until somebody else calls me something unwarranted. Okay, but the liar part is kind of obvious, and they just keep doing it. Pirro keeps claiming he's proven something. He hasn't proven shit. And I've demonstrated that every time they talk about the double slit and the single slit experiment, they do in fact say stuff that they have to know. If they took grammar school physics, they have to know they can't say that with a straight face. Something's wrong. You can't say Huygens creates two waves in the single slit, and then say in the double slit Huygens just creates two waves, because it has to create four. It's logically required, and they keep lying about it. And then they make up shit that's just preposterous. Where's the theoretical grounding for gravitational wave theory? Where's the theoretical grounding for converting two solar masses into bent space? Not into radiation, not into any particle of any kind, but into bent space. Where was that in Einstein's theory? Where has anybody demonstrated that that's a possibility? Where did Einstein speculate that you could convert bent space into matter, are matter in bent space. Where did he do that? Oh, that's right, never happened. Wait, let's just get rid of this fucker. No point in wasting time on that crap. Alright, so somebody going by the name Draft Science, steals my own name. Do you really think Benatar supports euthanizing healthy animals? You're a moron. It's in the preface of his book, so obviously you didn't even read his book. It's right in the preface of his book. He says everything I'm saying about humans I would apply, likely applies to all the sensitive animals on Earth. Okay, and he just explained I'm not going to talk about animals because people are so human obsessed that you have to include them in every conversation or you can't have a conversation. So, but yeah, euthanizing an animal is easy because you don't have this human dilemma of like humans thinking they have some sort of purpose or function. Animals are just things living day to day. And Benatar's whole point of his video, his whole point of his argument is that there's no point in being. There's nothing to be accomplished. You'll only put yourself at risk. Your struggle doesn't mean anything. So I'm just saying that why wouldn't he euthanize animals? Why would he think that depriving an animal of continuing to exist is somehow a good idea? There's absolutely no reason for him to say that. So you're a fucking idiot. You didn't even read his book. Obviously. Well, anyway, just another YouTuber says, yeah, because they are healthy, that means they won't harm other creatures and possibly starve. Or get cancer or all the other horrible things that can happen to you. LOL, this is ridiculous. You guys are going to go around chopping shit up on the forest. I don't even know what that means. You guys are going to go around chopping shit up on the forest. Sorry, that's just too stupid. Let's see. Okay, so Draft Science is done here. And we'll just block those. Just delete the other two pieces. Well, I guess they automatically get deleted. Anyway. Alright, so Puro. I guess I'll read his first one first because he has a by the way. Yeah. Ooh. Alright. The fact is that velocity does not bend light. Now, he's not really talking about bending light like gravitational waves bending light. So this part he's talking about is velocity, meaning the emitter, is moving. Okay. And when the emitter produces light, that it won't produce light that goes, let's see, the target will be moving, and so the target will not collect the light in the same position because the target moved in the amount of time it takes the light to get to the target, because the light goes straight. So the way he said it doesn't even come close to saying it accurate. My whole point is light travels in a straight line, and everything else doesn't. Light goes straight, always goes straight. The target and the emitter are the things that aren't in the same position. They're not stationary, idiot. So he doesn't even say it right. The fact is that velocity does not bend light. So this is, you deny that. Yes, I deny that you've demonstrated anything. But it's proved over and over thousands of times. So again, he's citing more proof. You have no proof. Cite your proof. Where have they taken a photon that was shot accurately? They know exactly where it took off from, exactly its momentum and its position, and then they received it somewhere else. Where's that experiment ever been done? Oh, that's right, it hasn't. And as I've pointed out repeatedly, for me to do the experiment with laser beams aren't as collated light as everybody wants to think. It's more collated than a light bulb, but it's not. It still spreads, and it spreads a lot. A lot compared to the amount of movement you're trying to detect. And that spread in itself will mask the effect you're looking for. You have been shown the facts. No, I haven't been shown anything. Nothing like a fact, nothing like an experiment, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just more. So what is that? I mean, obviously he's confident, but he's confident in saying things that he doesn't back up with anything called evidence. It's like his evidence for two-slit diffraction is a manipulated experiment. It's not even honest evidence. It's doing two experiments and changing the circumstances of the two experiments and then say it was a fair contest. It's like breaking a runner's legs on the track and then saying, see, my guy won honestly. No, it's a fraud. It's so overtly a fraud. And yet he thinks he's confident in doing this. He's confident in being a fraud. The fact that water waves do have diffraction lines. So here he goes again. He keeps saying that water, if I drop a pebble into water, there'll be interference in the waves that come out. They won't come out as plain circular waves. There'll be interference waves, and they'll come out in spokes with one single pebble. No, that won't happen. The only way I can make interference is I have to throw a bunch of pebbles at different speeds. So he's just a liar. I mean, fuck, it can only be called a lie. I mean, it's so obvious. There's no interference pattern in the single slit water experiment unless you put interference into the slit. Unless you create interference in the source, there will not be interference. But I would have to give you the emotion of understanding those things. You to keep the facts instead deny them. What? But I would have to give you the emotion of understanding. So again, he keeps talking as if understanding is an emotion. The fact that you feel satisfaction or dissatisfaction or comfort or discomfort. Yeah, that's probably a better way to say it. He said because things are associated with comfort or discomfort, he thinks that the thing, the thought, is an emotion. So because some perceptions of reality are comforting or discomforting, he's saying those thoughts were created by an emotion. Those things for you to keep the facts instead of deny them, whatever that is. But I'm not a telepath. You're not a fair or decent or reasonable human being. So you're far less than a telepath. You're a fucking asshole and you belong in the asshole galaxy. LOL evidence. Newton determined evidence before taking something seriously. And then he puts in capitals, me too. What's the joke? So where's your evidence of bent space? Where's your evidence of dark matter? Where's your evidence of converting mass into bent space? Where's your evidence for why Huygens in the single slit creates two waves and Huygens in the double slit only creates two waves? How is that possible? Where's your evidence? Oh, that's right, you don't have it. Newton didn't endorse Huygens, by the way. Pedophilia, you just avoid being that up. You just can't avoid bringing that up against everyone. Pedophilia. No, what I can do is I can point out that if you're going to use ad hominem attacks, I can use them too. And I can say, if you're going to say I'm horny for some kind of fake lie, for some kind of perverse emotional reason, I can just say you have the same perversion, shithead, and I'll just make it a different perversion. So because you choose your perversions, I'll choose mine. So yeah, my attack I think is more pointed. You probably do have that problem. You know, yeah, you probably are. Is there a rational reason or is it emotional, do you think? No, I think yours is the problem. You make accusations you can't back up and then you complain when somebody uses exactly the same tactic against you just to show you how stupid you are. I'm showing you how ad hominem and useless your remarks are, how I could contrive a psychopathic reason why you think what you think, and then you complain. I use exactly the fucking technique you use and then you complain. Pussy. Let me guess. Rational in this case? LOL. Well, LOL, 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 LOL. Okay? And fuck you. You belong in the asshole galaxy. I didn't say ignore fear. Well, you just said fear is this terrible irrational emotion. Oh yeah, here. I said fear is an irrational emotion. All emotions you could argue are irrational is sort of my point. They're based on what we conditionally learn. But I would argue, generally speaking, that most of the things you fear them for a good reason. That your conditioning has absolutely something to do with a fair evaluation. Wherein the bigotries of I love my mommy and daddy, those bigotries aren't as reasonably based because you just didn't live with everybody else in the world. You didn't have as much exposure, so you never had an opportunity to love them or find them endearing or to make them part of your world. So it was just a prejudiced encounter that makes you think your mommy and daddy are special. So it wasn't a fair contest. But your fears are, generally speaking, usually based on a fair contest. You experience life, you experience these good things and bad things, and you experience the fact that, yes, these things are worth... Ebola is worth fearing. What an idiot. Is there a rational reason, or is it emotional, do you think? I don't know what that... Oh, that's the pedophile thing. I said fear is an irrational emotion. Also, there's nothing about my mistakes that would have been improved by less fear. Improved by less fear. No, you need more appreciation for fear, shithead. You're just a reckless asshole. You keep talking as if these are mistakes worth making, you idiot. You have no appreciation. You're a disease spreader. Your mistakes, on the other hand, specifically call for less fear. I don't even know what the fuck that means. First off, I'm not declaring, I haven't killed anybody, asshole. So, as far as you can tell, as far as you have any evidence, and I certainly didn't make somebody for that purpose, so fuck you, jackass. Alright, Piro, fear is not an irrational emotion. It is totally rational, and human beings have feelings. Well, I don't know what that means, but obviously people can fear irrationally. The point is I would argue that most of the time they fear rationally. That it's so base an activity defining the cost-benefit analysis is such a basic function of the organism that, yes, generally speaking, we get that one right. I mean, it's when it comes to our personal advantage and all that shit. But again, the only problem is that we're too focused on our personal advantage. That's the irrational part. We don't have to live in all the other brains for equal amounts of time and appreciate their struggle. So we don't, because out of sight, out of mind. That's probably something, a pretty good phrase, out of sight, out of mind. Anyway, so Jordan Peterson again, who I've blocked. Show me the evidence. Show me the evidence. I don't think I said it twice, but whatever. First, we pointed out how Michelson-Morley, again, and how I already pointed out how all the mirrors are moving, you idiot. So, wrong again. And I pointed out that the distance is already, I already showed it in the laser experiments, how the distance of the beam is fundamentally different. One of them goes more distance. So, again, wrong again. I've pointed out how it's useless. Alright. Counteracts your only travels in one direction hypothesis. Only travels in one direction. I don't know what that is. What can travel in two directions? What are you talking about? I don't know. And your response was, but that was about an ether. My response was, that's Michelson-Morley believed in ether, and they were trying to prove its existence. That's what I pointed out to you. And that if you want to say the experiment proves something else, then you have to demonstrate how the experiment actually measures that thing. And as I've pointed out, it can't measure that thing because the emitter and the receiver are both also moving, as are all the mirrors. Oh, fuck. We say it also contradicts your theory, and you say, but there's 88 mirrors, and they're all moving. Yes, that's a good point. And there's a box, and who knows what's inside. Well, I don't know about the box part. That was a separate argument, idiot. And how can you control all this light? We point out the experiments have been replicated with modern lasers. And I pointed out that with modern lasers, the beam lengths, when they use a splitter, are different. You just ignore that. And that's when you called us lying fucktards. Well, I call you fucktards for saying that somehow doing it with modern lasers changes the experiment at all. The same flaws exist. The same problem of the mirrors moving exists. Shithead. Anyway, I don't want to do a physics video here. So sorry, I won't get into all this crap, but I guess I'll grab this text just in case this comment should be deleted, because he's now blocked. So if I reload, it won't exist anymore, and then I won't be able to respond to it. So I'll save it in some other location. Paste isn't working. Anyway, alright. So then Phoenix Justine, you've been incredibly generous. So there's no generosity, and I'll bury all you people in the end. So fine, just demonstrate the point made in the video. Okay, that you all have no discipline, you have no rational limits on your ability to out of mind, out of sight, any kind of argument that's going to impeach your selfish authority and what you've deemed to be true, and you're impervious to hearing about how you're full of shit and you're an asshole. Nail on the head, you hit it. Prepare to be blocked for making sense. Now he's blocked for being a liar like you, okay, who disguises himself as somebody else. Do you endorse that? It's another guy who's got to go. Miles Mathis, he calls himself, which he's not. Love seeing arrogant cunts like you coming out of the woodwork. Guess what? All those equations in the double slit, none of them admit analytic solution, you dumb fucks. Well, the truth is that even with Huygens, they're not right. I mean, so, it's, well, anyway, it goes through a whole bunch of other Einstein stuff. Basically making my argument for me subtly, but in ways I don't need to go that far. I don't need to point out all these irregularities, because the fundamental idea is so extraordinary. The bent space, it's like saying the fairies did it. If you're going to say the fairies did it, you have to have extraordinary evidence, not incredibly, almost vacuous evidence. There's absolutely no evidence of bent space. There's only evidence that there's a convergence heading towards the sun, so to speak. That's the only evidence there is in gravity, is the convergence. The pressure moving things. Nothing, no evidence of a bent space. There's no bent space character in the math. There's no bent space. And yet they'll keep claiming bent space is causing it. It's the only possible solution. No, it's not the only possible. There's lots of other explanations possible, and there's one explanation that's actually the truth. I think I got that one. Anyway, wow, you're really good at taking snippets of lectures out of context. I play people's videos, you idiot. So what did I do? I played a guy's lecture and responded to it. And this guy is saying something this stupid. Wow, you're really good at taking snippets of lectures out of context. What was the context? Oh, the context is what? There's some reason to respect religion and the idiotic harebrained notions in it, like I should grow a beard. No, I don't think there's anything in there. Out of context and then launching into irrational tirade against them. You say irrational, quote me. Why don't you quote some of my irrationality, pussy? Totally missing the point. And again, the point was, whenever he refers to John, so he says, somebody asked for example, question mark. He refers to Jordan Peterson whenever he refers to him. That's an example. So you can't quote something I said that was irrational, and instead you just make this accusation that I made an irrational response. No, a rational response to a religious kook. Alright, so this guy's saying Peterson is unstomachable, blah blah blah. I don't even know what this means. The Demerge doesn't like this video. I don't like this comment. Sir Soap. Fuck you. Okay, so, the meal guy, yeah. So this is the, Tranquil. Used to be Tranquil. It was never Tranquil. It's a nut. So yeah, this might take a while. Well, just play it and see how long we go. Wow, what a bunch of complete and utter horseshit. And you have the nerve to call me a naysayer. Yeah, well, so this is going to be over the fixing cats argument. What do you think you're accomplishing with your critique of me here? I'm critiquing the fact that people keep advocating for things that are completely contrary to the principles they're supposed to believe in. So it's like vegans who think, well, nature's beautiful and those animals, their suffering doesn't matter somehow. So if nature kills something brutally, it's okay. If humans kill something brutally, it's not okay. That's nonsensical rubbish. Alright, you know nothing of what I do. I didn't talk about specifically what you do. I talked about the idea of capturing and tormenting animals, cutting their nuts off, and then throwing them back into a hostile environment to be killed. I said that's insidiously sadistic. You know nothing of what I do, yet you sit there and throw some not true Scotsman fallacy around from the comfort of your own ignorance. So again, there's some claim that I did something dishonest or I described something inaccurately. The truth is this is what all these humanitarian animal people are doing. They're taking feral animals, cutting their nuts off or cutting their privates up, and clipping their ears, and then throwing them back on the street to eat garbage. It doesn't make any sense. If you cared about the animals, you'd put them to sleep for the surgery, and then you wouldn't wake them up. Why are you tormenting them extra? You've already tormented them by trapping them, capturing them, and then tying them up for surgery and all that shit. Why not be done with it? Why not make that the last horrible act you commit? Why throw the animal back on the street without its natural tools to fight? I'm not a true antinatalist because I don't kill feral cats. Well, the argument is you don't euthanize them. Is that what you're saying? Yes, I'm saying that it's idiotic to think a cat has some sort of function and a human doesn't. You've concluded that humans don't have a function. Why do you think cats have a function? Why would you wake a cat up? And that's supposed to be logical. It is logical. You're the one who's not being logical. You're playing a game with language. No, there's no language game. We understand what cats are. You're the one who says kill for euthanize. So, I mean, you're the one playing language games, aren't you? It's because, aren't you? You're just using the less accurate, more ugly word on purpose, aren't you? So you're playing a language game, correct? It's okay that you don't kill the cats you take care of. I explicitly say that's not okay. That frankly it would be my preference. If they gave me the tools to do it perfectly, I would do it. If all I had to do was shoot them with a tranquilizer gun and that's the end of it, I'd do it. Because it should be done. It's the right thing to do. But emotionally, it's really uncomfortable. It's really, really hard emotionally to do the right thing. But you don't want to call it what it is. It's the right thing. You're going to claim it's not the right thing to do, and that it's only my emotional problem that makes it difficult? Because that's what it fucking is. I wouldn't like to grab the cat's fur too hard or even step on its little toe. That would bother me emotionally. And to kill it, what do I have to do? I have to trap it, and then I have to somehow kill it. That's emotionally very difficult. But it's the right thing to do, shithead. Retard, dumb fuck. But it's not okay for me to take care of them because I throw them back on the streets. Well, again, you're calling it caring for something by trapping it, cutting its nuts off, and then throwing it back on the street. You're saying that's being caring. That's loving it. That's worrying for it. I don't think so. What's the fucking logic in that? I don't see any logic in what you're doing. If you're not inconsistent and you're not killing the strays in your environment either, I'm for it, though, is the point. I can't do it. If I could do it, I would do it. If I could kill all the 2 million stray cats in New Jersey by doing this, I just did it. Alright? I'd vote for it in a second. Vote to to humanely exterminate the 2 million cats, I'd vote for it. I'd even vote for not even perfectly humane, just because if we do it once, it's done. It's over. It needs to be ended. The cycle of horrible, disgusting violence needs to end. You cunt. Then your only possible complaint is that I'm not doing them a favor to the extent that you are. Again, my argument is that you're fundamentally not getting the principle, which is their life has no function, and it's just setting them up for pain and suffering. You're just making the suffering possible by waking them up. And your evidence of that is, question mark, my evidence is a logical argument. The cat doesn't need to cure cancer. The cat doesn't need to pave a street. The cat doesn't need to do a motherfucking thing, and by existing you're just guaranteeing it pretty much a horrible death. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is horrible injuries, disability, infections, slow and horrible death. I take care of them the best of my ability. It's irrelevant. And I'm saying, what's the definition of caring? I'm saying caring is not waking them up. I provide food, water, and shelter for them. I'm not saying you shouldn't provide food, water, and shelter for cats. Where did I say you shouldn't do that? I'm talking about the principle that the cat should exist. And you made this argument in the video where you were talking about, well, it gives people comfort and they like their blah, 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 blah. And you were making essentially a defense of pet ownership. And it shouldn't be defended. It's not right. They're slaves. Their suffering is a consequence of slavery. They're the slaves you're not taking care of. They're the slaves that fell off the boat or something, or drowning in the water. And you're not taking account for the consequences of the behavior. Having pets, apparently pet owners can't do it responsibly, okay, and they can't prevent 2 million feral cats in New Jersey from existing. Well, if you can't do that, then you shouldn't be allowed to own the fucking things. If they're injured, I take money out of my pocket and help them. Again, this wasn't the argument. The argument is what should the policy be? Shit. I get them adopted whenever possible. Again, feeding this institution of everybody must have a pet. No, they shouldn't have pets. It wouldn't make sense to do this if they could just keep reproducing, would it? And again, that's not the argument. The argument's not whether they keep reproducing. The argument is, after you've made them non-reproductive, okay, why would you put them back on the street? Why take the cat? Look, go ahead, anesthetize it, cut its nuts off, and now the decision is, will I wake the cat up? I mean, will I allow it to wake up? Or will I just end its life while it's asleep? Unconscious. The point is why the fuck would you wake it up to throw it back on the street and say you love him? That's stupid. So I get them sterilized with a TNR program. Let's understand, it's a preposterous amount of money that this is spent on this, right? So thousands of dollars reclamating animals. You know, they take animals that are horribly broken. They'll spend thousands of dollars to fix them. So instead of spending the money on de-incentivizing pet creation and production, instead of fighting the industry of pet ownership with the money, they're wasting the money rehabilitating animals who are already damaged and who they're going to just sentence to death anyway. I mean, it's stupid. Everything gets euthanized, jackass. Everything gets killed. Everything gets put to sleep. You're just talking about whether it needs to live a few more years eating garbage. And it doesn't. Idiot. You think there's a come euthanize the feral cats in your area program. No, I'm saying exactly the opposite. I'm saying that doesn't exist, and it's not going to exist as long as fake solutions keep popping up where people think they're solving the problem by cutting their nuts off and throwing them on the street. If they think that's a solution, it's retarded and stupid. It's not a solution. It's not anything close to a solution. It's fucking stupid. Program being held by the SPCA or something. Well, who said I was advocating for the SPCA or advocating for any of these organizations? Pete is the only one that even comes close to being rational. There is no option to not wake them up. Well, there's no option because no one advocates for that option, and you didn't advocate for it in your statements. Your statements were about how wonderful this relationship between humans and pets are. That was your bullshit, fucker. You were defending the very entity that's creating the problem you were defending, you shithead. God, you're an obnoxious piece of shit. Yes, likewise. Double. Whatever that line is. Times affinity. You even try to patronize me with your even Benatar, this and Zofti that. Well, Koran is your guy, right? So, yeah, Zofti wouldn't be relevant. Koran was... So, you see, this guy was a believer. We used to argue, and his real problem with the human race was just civilization. If he could throw human beings back into being baboons, okay, then he would. Okay, so it's okay for human beings to exist if they're uncivilized, and it was civilization that's the big evil. Retarded fuck. Better never to have been has nothing to do with ending sentient lives. Well, I'm sorry. Better never to have been is a pretty clear statement. That if everything is better never to have been, then why would you wake anything up, shithead? I mean, it's a glaring statement. Better never to have been only has one logical consequence, and it is don't make anything be. Don't create it, don't recreate it. Has nothing to do with ending sentient lives. So he somehow thinks that better never to have been doesn't have anything to do with ending lives, in the sense that if Frankenstein's asleep, you don't wake him up. And everything to do with starting them. And again, what are you doing when you wake something up? You're restarting it. And you know this very well. Well, I know that there's no difference between not waking somebody who's asleep up and not making them in the first place. Those two things are exactly the same. None of this is even mentioned in the Hangout. Yes, what was mentioned in the Hangout was a bunch of gooey mush about how this relationship between humans and animals, this taking by the humans, is somehow generous, when it's not. You're just way out of line here. No, you are, and trying to smear my name for no good reason. I'm just pointing out how your logic is vacuous and your principles are unsecure. They're not solid. The fact that you don't really understand, the fact that you think there is something good, and that's what you did argue, about putting animals back on the street, that's really dumb on your part. Incredibly dumb. And to do it at a preposterous cost. It's just the veterinarian subsidy programs. All of this stuff just has to do with fucking vets getting rich. And they do get really rich. Okay? They get rich putting feral cats to sleep. They get rich doing surgeries on them, neutering them and spaying. They get a huge amount of money doing this. And they wouldn't make any money if they had to fairly price euthanasia. No big money for them then, and their business would dry up really fast. And they know it. And that's why we have shitty answers instead of good answers. It's because selfish cunt veterinarians vote in their own interest. They don't advocate for humane policy. They advocate for policy where they can charge people $1,200 to properly euthanize their pet. That is to have somebody come to the house and put them to sleep. So... Gary, you're deeply religious. Corey Anton. So that's a quote by Corey Anton. What the point does this even mean? Obviously I'm not religious, and I don't know. So why bother saying this shit? I don't understand it. You think I'm religious? Well, fine. Go ahead. Be retarded. Religion by what kind of definition? My dogma is what dogma? Where's the dogma in my statement? Oh, my axioms are sentient things can feel very good or very bad. And bad is bad. Yeah, that's my dogma. Suffering is bad. Okay? So that's a religion. That's not just a overtly obvious fact of life. People are just so fucking uselessly stupid. But anyway, enough. So... Till next... Oh, this guy needs a hug. You need a fucking boot in your face, I think. Anyway, fuck you people. Till next time and such.